Elon Musk's XAI finally released a model that is better than OpenAI's O3 Mini or any other reasoning model when it comes to solving mathematical problems or coding solutions. They introduced the model in a very similar fashion to OpenAI's videos, where there was a conversation between three of their engineers along with Elon Musk. Even if I look at the benchmarks, it is better than O3 Mini in coding abilities or solving mathematical problems. And the initial feedback from people like Lex is quite positive. He talked about how extensively he has used the model. This could be true or not since he has close ties with Elon Musk, but let's try it for ourselves. So in this video, I would be trying out Grok Pre along with Cursor. It does not have native integration with Cursor yet, so we would be making a plan with Grok 3 on how to build the app, and then you would be going inside Cursor to implement it. So for getting started, I'm on grok.com. If you are not able to access the models on x.com's website, it's most likely that you would be able to do it on grok.com. Even if I go on x.com and I try accessing Grok here, it will show me that I don't have Grok 3's access right now. But when I go on grok.com, I see I have access to Grok 3. So this is worth trying out. And when you come over here, you will see that Grok 3 has two modes right now.
One of them is deep search and another one is deep think. What deep think allows you to do is solve mathematical problems or coding problems.
So for this video, I'm trying to create an app which creates a loyalty program for a fuel pump. So what this app will do is that on the home screen,
the driver can input their vehicle number, and based on the vehicle number, they can see that what discount is available for them. This discount would be calculated based on the amount of fuel that they have purchased.
This app will have another screen that is for admin, where they can add the amount of petrol or diesel that a driver is basically putting in their vehicle so that it can be considered for the loyalty program.
Apart from that, I have wrapped around this entire app idea with a certain set of instructions I use for
generating product requirements document. So this is basically a document that will help Cursor create an app based on these specific instructions.
I've mentioned certain steps here for generating the PRD.
These steps help guide these deep thinking models like Grok 3 in the right direction. I figured all of this by hit and trial. So if you are a beginner, I would recommend you to just use this entire prompt. You can find it from the description below and just put in your app idea in this section. Now I will copy this entire prompt from here and I will drop it in Grok 3.
I will select the think mode here and I will disable the search. The reason why I'm doing that is we don't need to search up-to-date articles for generating this. Apart from that, I've selected Grok 3 model right now and I will just drop this prompt. The model thought for 123 seconds and I got the PRD.
At the start, it has described the entire idea, who are the target users for it, what are the features that you would be needing for this app. There would be an admin panel, discount tiers, what is the technical stack for creating this. Then it has also mentioned the SQL commands that we would be requiring within Supabase.
And the rest of the details would be needed. So I will just copy this entire PRD from here.
And then I will go within Cursor. Within Cursor, I will open up a new folder. So within my root directory, I have created a new folder called My Projects. Over here, I save all my projects. You can create a similar directory. And within this, I've created a new folder called Loyalty App for Pumps. I will just open this. And within this folder, I will create a new file. I will call this file prd.md. And I will save the entire documentation over here. Once I save the entire documentation, I will click on this panel on the right and this will open up the composer panel within Cursor. Over here, I will mention the first prompt. If I come to my PRD, you will see that within step 1, there are 3 multiple substeps. So for doing this, I will want it to execute on the first sub-step first and then come on the rest of the steps.
Because after the first sub-step of step 1, we would have to change a directory. So that is why we would execute on that sub-step first and then continue.
So I've mentioned just execute on the first sub-step for now.
I will copy this entire thing so that it knows which step I'm referring to.
You will see that I've selected Claude Sonnet 3.5 here, which is the fastest and the best model for creating or coding anything right now, and I've selected the agent mode. So it has started running the command. Over here, I see that the command is not exactly how we have mentioned it in the PRD. So I will just copy this command from the PRD myself. I will just copy this here and I will paste it in the terminal. And it is asking us if we want to use AESLint. Yes. Yes for Tailwind CSS. Yes for Swag. No. No. And now it's installing all the required dependencies for us. It has installed all the required files here. So what I will do over here is I will just change my directory. And I will just select the new subfolder that was created within the folder. I will click on open here and I will click on save. And within this folder, I will create the prd.md file once again. I will call it prd.md. And in this file, I will paste the entire PRD that I generated with Grok earlier. So I will just copy this again and I will paste this. And now we have completed the first sub-step of step 1. I will take a quick pause here. Are you a founder who's looking to build their own app? Or are you trying to learn how to use all these new AI coding tools but you don't have time and learning all of it is really overwhelming at this point of time? Then I have something for you. I've built more than 13 apps in the last 6 months, all using AI, and I created a guide with all the trial and error I went through in the last 6 months so that you can build an app in just 48 hours using AI coding tools without writing a single line of code. This guide contains all the lessons that I learned along the way. This has all the prompts that you would be needing for creating your app as well. 90 plus people have already learned coding using this guide, and you can do too just in a weekend. Get this guide and learn how to code using AI today. The link to the guide is in description. Check it out. Now back to the video. I will just mention done here and then I will open up the AI sidebar once again over here. I will select composer over here. I will select the Sonnet 3.5 latest model and I will select agent over here. I will drop a new prompt here. You will notice that there is the same pattern where I ask it to go through the PRD and then execute the steps that I want. This time I have mentioned I wanted to execute the remaining sub steps and I've mentioned the step that is completed, and I've also mentioned the entire step over here so that it does not get confused, and then I will click on submit. So you will see that it has start installing the Supabase driver first. I will just click on run command. I've noticed that it has installed the driver without any interference from my side. Next step is installing shardcn. I'll just click on run command. I see that the command has failed over here. It will just see that the command failed, then it changed the command name and it worked that time. So I see that within the panel, it wants us to select the components that we want. The AI agent is not able to select that. This is the functionality that is not available in Cursor or any AI coding tools right now. So I will just pop out this terminal and I will select the components that we want. I will see that we want button, input, form and card. So I will select button. I'm using space bar for selecting these input. Then I will select. I see that there is no form option over here. Let's see if there is form. No, there is no form. And I will select card here and I will press enter. It wants me to tell where we want to install the components. So I will just click enter over here. I will let it install the components in the while for now, and then we will ask just a composer to put them in the right place. Then it has created a components.json file for us. So we'll just accept this. Then it has created a utility file for us. And then it's installing Tailwind for us. So I see that it is again installing the components. So over here I've dropped another prompt. I've mentioned we have already installed the required components in root directory. So root directory is basically the entire main folders. So we have the components folder within the main folder, and I've mentioned please move them to the right folder. The right folder for this will be within source and the app subfolder. This is already mentioned in our PRD. So I've dropped my prompt. I've mentioned we have already installed the required components in root directory. So let's see if it's able to recognize the files that we're talking about. Yes, it has noticed the listed directory. It has saw the 3 files that we were referring. So now it's creating a new components folder within the src file over here. Let's run this command. This has created the new components folder over here. Let's run this command. This will move the required files here. And yes, the required files have been moved and the other folder in our root directory has been deleted. It also saw that the form component was not installed. I guess that the form component needs to be installed in another manner. There must be another component that we would be using in place of form because form is not available. So I've mentioned my prompt here. I've said that form component is not present in chat.cn menu. It will get to know that form is not available and it will tell us which are the files that we need for this instead. So it is installing all the components it needs for creating the form component. We'll just let it run the command over here. So it has created all the required files. Now I'm asking it if step 1 is complete. I see that there are some steps in step 1, which is basically the third sub step that is not completed. So I will just copy this and drop it here. I'm asking it if step 1 is completed, and I have mentioned that I see a sub step that is left. So I've just pasted that sub step from there and I will run this. I will also reference the PRD so that it knows about the document that I'm talking of. So it has created a .env file with all the required variables. We would be inputting these variables once we generate them from Supabase. For now, I will accept all of these changes. So now our step 1 is completed. So our next step is to set up our database. Before moving on to that, I will just mention that our step 1 is done. Same for all these sub steps within this. So we have to come to step 2 here. Over here, the first step is something that we would have to do manually, where we have to sign into Supabase. So I will just go to Supabase. So I've just signed up with a new account in Supabase. You will see that this first screen comes up where you have to name an organization. You have to select the kind of organization this is, and you have to select a plan. The free plan works really well until a certain limit. So we'll just use this here. And then I have to select a password for my database. Once I've inputted in password, then I have to select a region. You can select any region over here, it does not matter. I will create new project, and this would take some time for setting up the entire project. What we need is we want a project URL and API key. So I will just copy this project URL from here and I will go to .env.local file. Over here, I will replace this your Supabase URL with the URL that I just copied. I will do the same for the API key as well. So now we have both of these things. Now we can just go back to following the rest of the steps from PRD. I will go to PRD. I see that once we have configured the URL and the anon key, then we have to run the required SQL commands. So let's open up a new composer window over here, and in that ask it to provide us the required SQL commands. I will mention done over here so that it knows that we have inputted all the required URL and anon key from here. I will write the same prompt like the last step. I mentioned that you have to go through the PRD and then help me implement the rest of the steps from step 2. I will just submit this here and let's wait for it to provide us the required SQL commands. So it has provided us the instructions. We have to go on our project, then we have to click on our project, and on the left sidebar we have to select the SQL editor. So we are inside the SQL editor, and over here we have to run all these commands that it provided us. Let's copy this. I will just paste all of these here. I will click on run. Now if I go on table editor, I see that 3 new tables have been created: discount tiers, drivers, and fuel purchases. So this looks fine to me. And let's look at the fifth step. To verify everything was set up correctly, you can run these verification queries. So let's run these verification queries here. Let's go back to the SQL editor. Let's delete this and let's run the new query that we got. Let's click on run. And yes, the query ran successfully. So this looks fine. So our step 2 is now completed. I will mark this done. And similarly, I will execute upon the rest of the steps. Now we don't have to change anything within our Supabase. All of the rest of the steps would be within cursor itself. So I've put in the same prompt over here mentioning that we just go through the PRD and implement step 3.
Just to be mindful of your time.
From this point onward, I will just speed up the entire process. I will just do the exact same process where I'm asking cursor to implement these steps mentioned in the PRD, and I would be just verifying this throughout the process so that I know that it is doing the right thing. You will notice that every time when I want to run a prompt, I do it in a new composer window. The reason for this is because if you do it in the same composer window, the context limit of these models, in this case we are using
Model with context limit of 200k tokens.
That's why we will open up a new composer window for every step. So let's run all these commands. So what happened over here is that it started creating some of the files that are not mentioned in the instructions over here. You will see that in this
step, we wanted to create a server.ts file and client.ts file. But what it started doing is it also created a third file called database.ts. That's why I cancelled the generation.
In this case, what I will do is that I will come to the first prompt itself and I will mention it here. Stick to the implementation steps of PRD. So these are the places where you would have to intervene. You have to constantly check if it's doing these steps as mentioned in your PRD. This time it has changed server.ts file. It is creating a new client.ts file.
So it has implemented everything from step 3. I will just mark this as done in the PRD. And next we will move on to step 4, which is creating a middleware for our protected routes like the admin panel. So for this, I will just copy the prompt that I used in the last step.
And I will come back to the new composer window. I will paste the prompt here. I will just change step 3 with step 4. I will also copy the exact step 4 so that it knows what step I'm referring to. And let's run this prompt. So while you are creating the entire app, it's also helpful if you just try understanding what every part is doing. The good thing about this PRDs is that it just tells you that how an actual app works. So with time, if you do this process again and again, you will get familiar with a lot of things. For example, middleware is required whenever we are trying to put some of our pages
of the app behind password protection. Similarly, it's best that you keep on learning all the concepts that you are applying while coding, because in the future, people who can just guide AI in the right direction on how to build the app would be the people who are actually creating the app. You don't have to do the grunt work.
I see that it has implemented step 4 for us. I will just accept this. And now our step 4 is completed. Now let's go to step 5. I will open up a new composer window. I will just follow the same and I will drop the same prompt again. And changing step 4 to step 5 in this prompt. The rest of the things remain the same. And after this step, we would be able to test the pages or see the UI of our app.
Because in this step, we are creating the actual pages that are shown on our app. You will see that now we are deleting all the placeholder text that was there within these files. They come as default in Next.js 14, so we are just replacing them with the actual content of our project. And once it's done,
we will be able to see the first version of our app. It has implemented all the parts of step 5. And I notice here that it did revisions on one of these files for 8 times. So this is what happens when you're using the agent mode over here. In this case, it goes through the lint errors and it iterates on them until it gets the final output. I will just click on accept here and I will try running my app. npm run dev is the command that you need to run your app within next year's 14. I will click on this and now my app is running on localhost 300. I will click on this link and when I go on this link, I'm redirected to this driver fruit tracker homepage. So let's enter one of the plate numbers. So I will randomly generate a license plate number and I will try running it in the app. And let's click on view details. So when I click on view details, I should be redirected to the panel where it will show me that how many liters. Okay, so it shows me that the vehicle is not found. Please check the number or the contact the pump owner, which is the right response because the admin has not added this vehicle in the past. Let's see what is the address of the admin page. Over here we can add this. So I will go to localhost 300 and I will change the extension to admin here. Now I'm redirected to the login page. Over here I will add the default login. So I can find this from .env file. So the username is admin and the password is this secure password 123. I will just copy this. I will paste the password here. I will click on login. On logging in, I'm not redirected to the right page. I think there is an error. So I will just copy this error from here and I will paste it in the chat. So over here I mentioned I got this error when I tried to log in.
And I will submit this. Let's see if it would be able to figure out which is the right file to edit and what is the problem that happened. So it has started editing the file and I see that it's doing a lot of iterations on top of it. So let's wait for a while.
Let it run for a minute. If it still fails, then we will try debugging this using another method. So I see that it has made a bunch of changes. Let's test it out and see if this is working fine. I will copy the username and I paste it here and I will also copy the password and I will log in. I see that again there is an error over here. So I will just copy this entire error from here
and drop it in the chat. It has finished doing the debugging. So let's test out our admin panel once again. I will put in the admin login details over here. So now this is opening up. This is nice. Let's copy the vehicle number, one of the random vehicle numbers again and try logging in a sale. So I will put up 100 liters for now. And when I click on log purchase, the loading state comes in and it says that it has saved the purchase. So let's try going back to our driver portal and see if this purchase is being shown to the driver. So I will copy this again. I will drop it here. And when I click on view details, I don't see the details of the sale being logged here. Let's try seeing on a Supabase dashboard if this is showing up. So I see the driver entry over here. And I also see that 100 liters of petrol was logged for this driver, but I still don't see it on the front end. So let's try debugging this. So I will just copy this entire error message from here and I will drop it in the chat to debug it with the composer. So let's wait while it's making changes in the code. And once it made the changes in the code, the fuel details is showing up in the front end. So this is working as expected now. Next up, I want to improve the UI of this app. This looks very plain right now, not like an actual app. So what I will do is I will go back to the composer, and over here I will start putting in some commands on how I want my UI to look like. I want my UI to have a white background, and then I want elements to be center aligned. So right now I'm giving it direct instructions on how I want it. But an alternative way for you to do this is you can share screenshots of the apps of how you want it to look like, or you can just share screenshots of specific elements on how you want them to be. So once it has made the edits, I will try testing the UI if everything is working fine. So this looks fine. I'm happy with the font color and the small bar at the bottom, and the admin login panel also looks fine. So with that, I will end this video. I hope you got value out of it. Thank you. Bye bye.